And Uncle Ludi chased me through the cornfield and out in the woods, but he never caught me.
That's funny, Alvy.
Yeah, and that was on a Saturday. When I come out of the woods, him and Aunt Eunice and all them kids was piling in that old pickup truck going into town. Well, I ran, hard as I could, but all I caught was their dust. But they did that every Saturday. They always ran off and left me. I cried like hell. I wasn't growed up then, and I didn't know men weren't supposed to cry. They didn't come back till the next day, and Uncle Ludi took me out the woodshed. He whooped me so hard I could hardly stand up. That's when I finally ran off for good. I was about 10, 11 years old. I've been on my own ever since.
Poor Alvy.
Well, that's a long time ago, and I don't think about that ever no more.
But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Have a little time today for a change. Decided I would talk a little bit about, I don't know, things being taken for granted. I was talking to a friend of mine, goes by Smashlock online, talking to him about a decade ago, we started dealing with the woke before they were called woke. The SJW before that was coined by the atheist and skeptic communities before Gamergate. These people who are perpetual victims and always complaining and all the dishonest tactics that they have. We've been at this a lot longer than most people. And, you know, we talked about theories about why this type of behavior was emerging. And one of the things that we thought, and I think has a lot of credence now after all these years, is that previous generations had a cause. They had wars to fight, diseases to overcome. There were real hardships. And that after generations of getting easier and easier, there seems to now be people that are just, especially in their youth, creating problems and difficulties so that they'll have something as a cause that they can form their identity around. And this has a lot to do with, I think, you know, older and younger generations taking certain things for granted. You know, the younger generation being disconnected from the older, and the lion's share of actually of the responsibility is on the baby boomers and my generation, Generation X, for not ensuring that our connection to young people was strong. Family, community, heritage, you know, where do we come from? What have we been through? Explaining the meaning of sacrifices in the past. And you can see how it's spread. I know D&D, a lot of people out there probably don't play it. But for people who do, we've watched it turn into this absurd show of deterioration as they throw themselves constantly on the floor to try and avoid any perspective, possible insult to anyone, any kind of offense, where they've actually become offensive in their attempts to not be. So first it was orcs, and then dark elves, the drow, that were supposed to represent black people and be stereotypes. And then, you know, the dwarves and small people like halflings, it's insulting to them. For people in real life that have those issues. And now most recently there was a monkey people introduced, and people were like, this is black people. You know, not taking any time to consider that if you see black people, when you look at fictional monkey people and all these other types of monsters, you're the one with the problem. But it's always everyone else's problem, you see. It's projection. And the arrogance to think that you can better by removing parts of the game or any kind of tradition, film, television that's been so great, like Star Trek, Star Wars, that you, in your arrogance, now can come along and make it good. It was imperfect before, but you shall find the perfection in it. And I find that the commonality now is really, really strongly that we just take a lot of stuff for granted. And we need to start appreciating it, because if we don't, this situation that we're looking at right now, where people are more concerned about sending weapons to Ukraine and rather than looking at what our role was and continues to be in escalating it and killing so many people. In the past, we thought we'd learn our lesson because of World War I, World War II. And now we're like, okay, well, Vietnam. Okay, well, Iraq. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen people on the right promoting wars that were insane, like with Iraq in my own lifetime under George W. And now I'm seeing mostly people on the left promoting a war, and they just won't stop and question, is this our fault in any way? Are we making it worse? Are these people dying in part because of us? And we are taking for granted that we will no longer have the risk of a massive weapons of mass destruction attack. And we could end up with nuclear missiles flying back and forth, or biological weapons infrastructure destroyed with these new super viruses that most people don't even know exist for electronics and computers. Like, a lot of people could die. Millions and millions of people could die. And no one, well, there are people, but a lot of people just don't want to think about it. They take it for granted that this is the way life has always been and it will always be. We don't want to make people answer for all the anti-science that they just went and put into place from their positions of authority. People who are supposed to be doctors, health officials, government officials protecting our rights. Anti-science they put in place that they should have known and had access to that information from the beginning. But that they worked an agenda and went along with that agenda at least and abused their power. Many people have been hurt. We don't even know how long the lasting damage will be. And we just want to get past it and forget about it. These people should be held criminally responsible for what they did. You want the power? You should get the responsibility that comes with it. You want to strip people of their rights? Well, you risked it, and now it's time to pay the piper. You were wrong. We need to stop taking these things for granted, or else we're going to end up with a lot of hardship that will make anything we've gone through so far look really small and really weak. And the best way to do this is to start questioning authority, start asking ourselves difficult questions, and for older generations to start taking the time to reconnect with the younger people. A lot of times just conversing with them, young people asking questions, can give them a lot of the meaning that they are looking for. It'll shed some light, even though you might not realize you're doing it as a young person or an older person. In that conversation, somewhere some light might be shone into a life that would have otherwise gone down a very dark path. I think it's time that we start appreciating each other again, our history, and just how much trouble we can cause by not caring.
The thing mutates. We live underground. The world belongs to the dogs and cats. We live like worms.
I hope nobody ever tells her we were bad guys.
It won't make no difference.